blame myself wholeheartedly for Rarity being missing. And I've just had a lot on my mind with everything that's been going on. I've just been going through a lot, and I wasn't thinking, and I left the glass door open. She explored too hard, and now I can't find her. It happened 2 nights ago, and I put full blame on myself. So then I go to Snowflake's little community tab, and that's when I saw it. And I was like, you've gotta be kidding me. We're talking about Rarity again. Rarity! Oh my god.
You left the fucking door open. When you left that night, you betrayed me and you could not handle the fucking heat. You cannot handle the reaction that I had due to the pain that you caused me. You left the fucking door open and I took the blame. I don't know if she let her out on purpose. When you know you let her out because you left the door open is sick. Sick.
Hello everyone, welcome back, and we are in for a bit of a wild ride with this one. If you keep up with Amberlynn, then you already know the news. Things have been moving very fast and stories have been changing as new evidence comes out. So in this video, as well as in my part 2, which will be coming out at a later date, we'll be going over all the drama, all the meltdowns, all the crashouts, all the rages, and all the little tidbits and details that I didn't want to get left behind or forgotten. And specifically, today we're going to be taking a very close look at everything that was said about her missing cat, Rarity, because things have gotten a bit messy. Also, just a note, in this video as well as in my part 2, both of my videos are going to be organized by each talking point. So we are going to be skipping back and forth a little bit between Amber's various live streams, just to make sure that we get the details about every topic sort of lumped together. Because during this whole crash out of Amber's, lasting only Saturday through Monday, she managed to post 6 live streams and something like 8 or 9 hours worth of content. So there's going to be a lot to cover. Now, if you're not familiar with the Amberverse, this could get a little bit confusing. There's no way I could possibly go over all the Amber lore to catch you up, but as a very brief overview of how we got here, Amber was in a relationship with a girl named Emily, whom Amber referred to as Tommy, and the community at large referred to as Justin Feeder, among many other nicknames. And this relationship started somewhere around a year ago. The two broke up, got back together, broke up again, and for a while the community had been speculating that there was some sort of on-again, off-again relationship between the two. And as it would turn out, the community was right. But now, as of this past weekend, Amber and Emily are really super duper done. Maybe. Because Emily has now gone to other reaction channels to spread lies and hate about Amber. And Amber was actually warned that this was gonna happen. On Friday, August 1st, the cracks started to show. First, it was Hecticana. The community already knew that Hecticana had a mole and was getting insider information on Amber. Hecticana had speculated that Amber had a new kitten named Romeo. And as it would turn out, Hecticana was right. Amber did in fact get a new kitten, which she named Romeo. And then, perhaps in an attempt to further scare Amber, Hecticana posted again, saying that he was not the one that Amber should be scared of. Not so long after Hecticana's post, Emily posted to her Instagram with this not so cryptic message, saying, "It's wild to think snowflakes will be back before we know it." This was very obviously in reference to her talking to the well-known reaction channel, Mr. Snowflake, as in the creator of the most watched and perhaps longest set of documentaries on Amber, Shaped by the Algorithm and Victims of an Empath. The same creator that is probably one of Amber's most hated reaction channels. So after her post, people were very quick to speculate that Emily had some sort of interview going on with Mr. Snowflake. And because Mr. Snowflake doesn't dick around, he confirmed on his community post, writing, "Update. Been speaking to Emily, obviously. Been a very hard listen. Well, over text, but you know what I mean. We spoke about the emotional and physical abuse from Amber. We discussed Rarity. She sent me over screenshots of messages Amber sent to her on the day Rarity went missing. Amber, I think you better make a quick video to sort out your Rarity missing story. We discussed the breakup and post-breakup. I'll make a simple video as soon as I get a chance and get the video up as fast as possible. I'll keep you all updated. Cheers, everyone." And now, I do not believe that Snowflake posted this in order to update his audience. This was bait, and Amber took it. going live only like an hour after Snowflake made this post confirming that he had spoken with Emily. And then Snowflake continued to bait and taunt Amber further, posting update after update without actually releasing the video, doing this for so long that Amber actually released a second 2+ hour long live stream before the interview even came out. And just so you know the level of crash out that this was for Amber, Amber's first live stream was nearly 2.5 hours long, and it ended at something like 4:30 in the morning for her. Her next live stream started around 9 hours later. Likely she had just gone to bed, got up, and then immediately went live to continue crashing out for another 2+ hours. Now, Amber will claim, as she often does, that she found out about all this through a DM that someone had sent her.
So I go on to fucking Instagram tonight. I reply to Corky Love Rose. I barely check my Instagram. I happened to click another message and they were like, you know who is talking to Snowflake? And I was genuinely so confused. I didn't know, you know who. I didn't know who that was. And I was like, there's no way it's fucking Tommy again. I was like, there's no way. There's genuinely no way. So then I go to Snowflake's little community tab. And that's when I saw it. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. We're talking about Rarity again. Rarity! Oh my god.
Amber's initial instinct there was anger. She was angry before she realized that she's supposed to be sad for her darling cat that went missing so many months ago. Now, maybe probably Amber really did get a DM about this whole situation unfolding, but it's likely that she also probably saw Emily's post to her Instagram alluding to the interview, or that she saw the speculation that was all over Reddit and the forums, or that she saw Snowflake's own post confirming the interview. And it's even possible that Emily herself told Amber, because the two were talking shortly before and even through the live stream. Amber is all over her own gossip, so who knows when she really did find out. But however she found out, and she was big mad. Almost immediately going live to do some preemptive damage control, which largely turned into a big event of Amber repeatedly shooting herself in the foot and digging herself further into her own grave. Amber will claim that she didn't know what Emily told Mr. Snowflake, except that it would include the story of how Rarity went missing. And so largely that was what her first live stream was meant to address. But why did Amber feel the need to get ahead of this situation? Well, let's start by taking a little trip down memory lane. As many of you who are already well versed in the Amber lore will already know, Amber lost her cat Rarity back when she was visiting her girlfriend Emily in Wisconsin sometime in November 2024. According to Amber, it was an accident. She left the door open and Rarity just explored too hard. And for the purpose of this video, I think it's important to go back in time to hear Amber's own retelling of her original sequence of events.
Hey guys, so I really did not want to make this video and I'm only making it because people have found out and it's already on a reaction channel. But yes, my cat Rarity is missing and I have done nothing but cry. It happened 2 nights ago and I put full blame on myself. And I've just had a lot on my mind with everything that's been going on. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I've just been going through a lot and I wasn't thinking, and I left the glass door open just like, I don't know, like this much. And I'm telling you, when I noticed, it was like 20 minutes later, but it literally just takes a second.
In this first retelling, Amber is already trying to shift the blame away from herself. She wants to say her piece and get her side of the story out there before any other reaction channel can speculate. And while she says that she's taking full responsibility, she also leans heavily on excuses. She just had a lot on her mind. She's been going through a lot, and she wasn't thinking. And she even tries to blame the cat at one point.
She went outside because she's adventurous.
According to Amber, this all happened a couple of nights ago. She had accidentally left the patio door open just a crack, and only 20 minutes later, she realized that Rarity was gone. Right away, she's already downplaying how long Rarity could have been gone for. Clearly, Amber is already trying to control the narrative. But that video that Amber initially released didn't sit right with a lot of people. Why was she so hysterical on camera? It looked performative. And while yes, I do believe that Amber showed some genuine emotion there and was genuinely upset, even if it was a bit overplayed, the dominant emotion that was coming through there was anger.
She just wanted to venture out. I know she just wanted to see. No, like, I don't know where the she is, and it's been just like, literally, sorry.
Now, to be fair, some people will react with anger when a pet goes missing. They might be angry at themselves or just angry at the situation in general. So like, fair, that's valid. But because of how things would later play out, it was very likely that this emotion coming out of Amber, this anger, was probably spilling over from a fight that Emily and Amber had prior to Rarity's disappearance. And even in these early stages, the timeline was already starting to unravel. In that first video, posted on the night of November 18th, Amber had said that Rarity went missing a couple nights prior, implying that Rarity went missing sometime on the 16th. But people were quick to discover that the missing cat report wasn't filed until the 18th. People began speculating, and Amber wasn't having it. And so she had to come back online to try to prove that she wasn't lying. But actually, in this news story, it wasn't a couple of nights ago. Rarity had actually gone missing on the 17th at 5 in the morning. And this time, Amber actually gave us a little demonstration.
So usually, I take the dogs out, and this curtain is usually open. So I just close it like that. But when it happened, it was 5 in the morning. Yes. And this is closed. And when I closed this door, I thought I closed the door. It seemed like I did. I was half asleep with a million things on my mind. And this is how far I left it open. Like, the most simple mistake of the world can happen in less than a second and literally ruin and shatter your whole life. Like, a lot of people were confused saying that I leave the door open for the dogs to go outside. No, it happened after the dogs came back inside. And the only reason why I noticed is because the spot you guys always see me sitting in is literally right here. This is the dining room, by the way. So after I let the dogs back in, I was just doing things around the house. It was like 20 minutes later. I sat down in the chair and I felt like a super cold breeze. And I was like, that's weird. And then I put two and two together. I came over here, because like I said, these were closed. I opened these, I like peeked around the corner and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And then that's when I knew. That's when I knew. And a lot of people are confused on like when it happened. It was the 17th at like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. I'm telling you, we searched this house high and low and searched like surrounding areas outside of the home. And then that's when we put it online that Rarity was missing. And
so, a couple of things here. When Amber says there that a lot of people were confused about when this all happened, this is one of Amber's tells. She will often say that you're just confused when she's caught in a lie. She tries to make it out like, no, I'm not lying, you're just confused. And then she goes on to try to change her story or add details to make it seem more believable and make more sense. So in my mind, that's strike one. Next is just the odd level of detail. We don't need to see how you accidentally leave a door open. That's pretty self-explanatory. Why the big demonstration? Well, you could say that we need to look at this as a result of Amber's history online of never being believed, because she's always caught in lies, but maybe this was her over-explaining things because she knew that people would question her whether or not she was lying. So, okay, fine, that's not immediately suspicious given Amber's track record. But why so specific in the time of day? 5 o'clock in the morning, and she noticed after only 20 minutes. This 5 a.m. detail and the detail of how long it took Amber to realize that her darling cat, her world, her everything was missing would be Amber's eventual downfall. And the reason why her version of events, or rather multiple versions of events, will never be believed. Amber added too much detail, and that detail was able to be disproven. And when she tried to lie her way out of it, things just got messier, leaving her even less likely to be believed, and her story having too many holes to ever be taken seriously. And remember, this was all back in November 2024, way back when Rarity went missing. So now, fast forward to August 2025, with Amber being tipped off that Emily has gone to a reaction channel and Rarity is part of the conversation. It makes sense that Amber felt the need to get ahead of it all, because the Rarity situation has always been one of her messier and more controversial stories. There were inconsistencies from the start. And whether or not Emily planned to expose anything new, Amber probably assumed that she would. Amber knew there were holes. And whether it was fear of being proven a liar, fear of the public backlash and her image being destroyed, or fear that Emily would twist things and make up lies to make Amber look worse, whatever the case, Amber began to panic. And when Amber started to panic, she did what she always does. She tried to control the narrative and shift the blame. Before anyone else had a chance to speak, Amber jumped on camera to frame the situation in a way that would benefit Amber and paint Amber in a positive light, making Amber the victim and the hero of her own story. She wanted to plant her version of events in everyone's head before they got a chance to hear from anyone else. And this is a very odd thing I've found with Amber. Just because she's the first to say her story or the first to talk about something doesn't make her story any more true. Anyway, only an hour after that community tab post from Mr. Snowflake, Amber went live.
I don't even know where to begin or start.
Before we move on, I know this is like a really dumb point, and I'm not sure if anyone else has mentioned this or noticed this about Amber. We all know that Amber has piss poor grammar and doesn't understand words, but anytime that she's trying to like gather a list of adjectives to describe something, she just like uses a simile of the same word. Like she doesn't know where to begin or start. Like, girl, that's the same thing. Anyway, now that I've pointed it out, hopefully you can see it in other places too, so you're welcome for that. Anyway, Amber doesn't know where to begin or start because she doesn't know what Emily's going to say, or rather what she's already said to Mr. Snowflake. But the main purpose of Amber going live so immediately, according to Amber, is to apparently clarify the whole Rarity story and make sure that she gets ahead of this narrative.
The truth about Rarity, only the people closest to me know, and only Emily knows. The truth is, so how this all like started is like she literally told me, "I promise I will never hurt you again." I mean, this is genuinely what she would say to me every single time she hurt me.
Amber waffles on for quite a while, trying to gather herself so that she can talk about the night that Rarity went missing. But she actually spends the vast majority of her stream talking on and on and on about how horrible Emily was and all the things that Emily did to her. And she was just trying to protect Emily. And in fact, Amber only talked about the night that Rarity went missing and all the things that they did to find Rarity for a grand total of about 2.5 minutes during this 2.5 hour long live stream. Like, I gathered up all the clips for this video and that's all I got. Less than 2% of her whole stream to talk about the main thing that she was there for.
I tried very hard to just come on here and talk about how Rarity really went missing. And it's like now it's gonna go on to like all kinds of other stuff. So it's like, what do I do with that? Genuinely, what do I do with that?
Yeah, we'll go over in part 2 all the Emily versus Amber who did what discussion, but for right now, we're just talking about Rarity. Because I believe that Amber is trying to just sweep this under the rug, downplay the whole Rarity situation, and instead highlight how awful of a partner Emily was, and what a victim Amber was. And it was Amber who was the selfless martyr sacrificing herself to protect someone that she loved. No. The whole purpose of this live stream was to deflect and redirect the conversation. Because what does this say about a person's story if the reason that they went live, the reason that they came on to discuss this thing was just to address the Rarity situation, but then they go on and on for 2.5 hours and only spend 2.5 minutes discussing that actual event? That looks very guilty. For example, when police or investigators ask someone to recount their story during a serious event, especially in cases like, I don't know, a missing person or maybe just a missing pet, for example, they're looking for consistency as well as proportion. A truthful account gives a balanced detail. especially during the critical moment. You know, the moment that everything hinges on. So if your pet goes missing, you'd expect that that portion of your story would be rich with specifics and details. What exactly happened, how you reacted, what you did next, how you searched for them. That should have been where the bulk of the detail was. But with Amber, this was not the case. She chose to spend the bulk of her time crying over how she was the victim in all this. And that's another huge red flag, given that she basically glosses over the whole reason she went live in the first place. And this could suggest that maybe Amber's uncomfortable with that part of the story, or that maybe she's trying to distract or redirect the conversation. Or it could mean that she actually doesn't have much to say, because the version that she's presenting now isn't the full truth. So what is this next story that Amber decides to spin? Well, according to Amber, this all began after a big fight that her and Emily had gotten into.
So the argument was so fucking bad that I think it was like 5 a.m. or something. I don't even know. She ended up leaving her home through the kitchen door, which is the sliding glass door. She left. We get in a really fucking bad argument. She leaves through the glass door, leaves the door open. I did not notice because I did not go near the door. I did not go near the door. I was sitting at the kitchen table waiting for her to come home. And that's when I noticed the cold breeze. Literally left the fucking door open. And she booked it so fast she didn't even close the door.
This new version of the story is similar to, but entirely different than the initial story that Amber told her audience. Originally, she took full responsibility. It was her fault that the door was left open. But it was also because she was just going through so much, you guys, and Rarity just explored too hard.
Cats don't run away, they explore. And they explore too hard, and then they get lost. That's what happened with Rarity. She didn't run away. She explored too hard, and now I can't find her, and I feel like I'm failing, but I'm doing everything I can. Mistakes genuinely happen. I am literally beating myself up constantly. I blame myself wholeheartedly for Rarity being missing.
But now, almost a year later, Amber wants to claim that everything she told her audience back in November was a complete lie. Now she says it was Emily who left the door open. She only said all that to protect Emily, except she keeps one detail the same, that this all happened around 5 a.m. on November 17th.
I was trying to protect someone I loved, and that's fucking pathetic. That's what I was doing. Like, and I feel afraid to say anything. I've been afraid to say anything this whole time. Because, like, I did not want to hurt her.
Now, here's where I'm having trouble with this whole retelling and new story that Amber is spinning. Okay, so story number 1. It was a mistake. Amber accidentally left the door open, and everybody makes mistakes. But then, oh no, Emily's gonna go tell the reactors the truth about the Rarity situation? And what, f***ing tell them that she let the cat out? In what f***ing world does that make sense? Like, am I understanding this correctly? Because to me, it makes absolutely no sense that Amber should be worried about Emily going to tell the truth about Rarity if this was the truth. So clearly, this new story is not the truth either. And before we get into Emily's side, Amber goes live one more time before the Snowflake interview with Emily, because she just could not spend even a minute alone with her own thoughts. And she continues to dig her own grave and bury herself deeper in her own lie. She decided to try to clarify the timeline a bit for everyone, because she had made a comment that it was the next day after this big fight with Emily that Rarity got out.
It wasn't a full 24 hours. So we were awake 5 a.m. and that's when that whole thing went down. And then when I said the next day, it's because I went to sleep, I would say probably around 6 a.m. I woke up at 9 a.m. I literally only got like 3 hours that day. And that's my version of it's the next day because I finally woke up. So it was the next day for me because, like, so you're at night, right? You're like, it's at night, blah, blah, blah. And then you go to sleep for the night, regardless of how long you sleep. It could be 3 hours, it could be 6, it could be 8.
then it's the next day. Does that make sense? Amber's definition of the next day is a little bit different than everyone else's definition, but that's okay. We've often seen Amber get confused with words and just not understand definitions. So maybe nothing too wrong there, except for her incredibly rude and defensive attitude when answering this pretty innocuous comment. I would definitely call that another big red flag in Amber's behavior and story, but that's just me. In any case, Amber is still sticking to this new story and timeline that Rarity was let out at 5 a.m. by Emily. And this would imply that if Amber was up by around 9 a.m. on the 17th, then it shouldn't have been too long before Amber realized that Rarity was missing, or that the sliding door was left open and there was this cold breeze. Well, Emily's story and the screenshots that she shared with Mr. Snowflake put a huge wrench in Amber's timeline. The interview that Snowflake did with Emily was only over text. So unfortunately, we didn't actually get to see Emily's reaction or manner of speaking. And I do believe that if we had been able to actually see Emily live, speaking and answering questions in real time, we may have been able to see more cracks in her story as well. And more slip-ups and areas where maybe she wasn't telling the full truth or maybe was exaggerating things. Because honestly, I don't think either of these ladies are very trustworthy, and I don't fully believe either of them. Also, a huge thank you to Mr. Snowflake and this interview with Emily. All the text messages and the screenshots that I'm going to share in this chapter are coming from his original video. So please go check him out. I'm sure you already know about him, so whatever. Anyway, we'll be talking about the full exchange in the next video, but for now, again, just focusing on Rarity. In the first question that Snowflake shared, he had asked Emily, why did you come out now? Why did you decide to share all this now? In response, Emily says, honestly, I was content staying silent for a long time, but I'm tired of watching her dodge any real accountability. She creates her own reality and then expects everyone to play along. The sad part is, most people do because they're either scared of her or don't want to deal with the drama. But I hit a point where I just couldn't sit back and watch her keep rewriting the truth. For most of this conversation, I do wish that we had a little more context and the opportunity to see how Emily answered on the spot, because to me, this answer doesn't have enough context. Emily talked about a lot of things with Mr. Snowflake, not just Rarity. Rarity wasn't even the main focus, I don't think. So we don't know if Rarity was even part of Emily's motivation to go to Mr. Snowflake. It could be that Emily is implying here that Amber is trying to dodge some responsibility with the Rarity situation, but more likely I think Emily is probably referring to some more recent event regarding Amber dodging responsibility. But I don't know. Anyway, during the interview with Mr. Snowflake, Emily went over the start of hers and Amber's relationship, and she described a gradual buildup of temper tantrums and anger coming from Amber, as well as various other complaints. Eventually, Emily starts to discuss the night when everything came to a head. Similar to Amber's story, Emily also admits that the two of them got into a big fight right before Rarity went missing. According to Emily, one of Amber's worst tantrums happened on the night before Rarity went missing. And according to Emily, after this big fight, she had to go and work a 12-hour shift. Based on screen captures that Emily would later share, her shift should have started around 8 a.m., meaning that she likely needed to leave the house before 8 a.m., and possibly earlier if she was just trying to get away from Amber. According to Emily, after her shift, which likely ended at about 8 p.m., she didn't want to come back home, and she spent the next couple of hours walking around to decompress. But then, around 10 p.m. on November 17th, Emily got a text from Amber saying that Rarity was missing. In her conversation with Mr. Snowflake, Emily wrote, "It was about 2 hours after my shift that I got a text from her saying that she couldn't find Rarity. She said that she hadn't seen her all day, but was just telling me this now. At that point, I came home right away. I figured she was just somewhere in the house and she was just saying that to try to get me home. But after I searched the entire house while Amber watched, she wasn't anywhere to be found. At that point, I moved the search outside. I was exhausted, but searched all hours of the night looking for her. I really thought I would find her that night, but it was no luck." Emily goes on to explain in detail all the things that she did to find Amber's cat, while Amber watched from the sidelines. Emily continued on to share that, at that point, I made posters and hung them up all around town to local businesses, posted on social media and lost cat pages. Amberlynn's one job was to call the shelter and make a report. But when I called the shelter, after they found a cat that was deceased and kind of matched Rarity's description, it ended up not being her, The shelter told me that no formal report was ever filed. The only info they had was the report from the lost pet database that I submitted. So at that point, I filed the formal report with the shelter with her description so they could call if they had anybody turn her in. As Mr. Snowflake had pointed out, there were inconsistencies in the missing cat reports that were posted back in November. This was a little detail that Reddit and the farms had pointed out back when this story all came out. It didn't make sense that Amber could have gotten her own cat's age wrong, or that she could have filed out the form as Amber rather than her preferred name, Amberlynn. Continuing on, Emily wrote, "I spent hours upon hours driving around looking for her. Walking through fields and in between houses around my house through the snow. Amberlynn would go in the drives with me, but obviously she didn't do the walking around part." But at the very least, you would expect Amber to be looking out from the car and calling out for her cat, right? Well, Emily went on saying that I would get so pissed when we were driving because she would have her head buried in her phone playing a stupid Farmville type game instead of looking out the damn window to find her cat. I loved Rarity, and she was a sweet cat that would always sleep on my chest. I did everything I could to try to find her. I can't say 100% that she purposely let her out, but given the circumstances, the situation doesn't look good. If it was a ploy to get her to be able to stay in Wisconsin longer, then I guess it definitely worked. So it sounds like Emily, way back in November and through to this day, seems to believe that Amber may have let Rarity out on purpose, in order for Amber to be able to stay in Wisconsin longer, or at the very least as a ploy to have Emily come home after their big fight. To be clear, I don't think there's anything anyone can do to prove that Amber did this on purpose. But the fact that there was so much contradiction in Amber's own story, so many red flags, and Amber's timeline of Rarity getting out the door at 5 a.m. and yet not texting Emily until 10 p.m., once it was convenient for Amber. And for this last part of the story with the 10 p.m. detail, like the good detective he is, Mr. Snowflake went after receipts and asked Emily,
"I don't know if you're like Amber and keep old messages, but do you have any messages from Amber about Rarity going missing?"
And Emily did, saying, "Yeah, I do. I have the message of her initial reporting when she's missing, which is timestamped. It shows that her story that she posted on her vlogs about her being missing at 5 a.m. was not correct." And then Emily shared this screen capture from her text message exchanges with Amber. It starts with Amber asking, "So am I leaving? Wait, I read that wrong. I also have moments where I snap on you. I haven't been able to find Rarity all day. I need help finding her, please. I've been calling her name and looking everywhere all day." To which Emily responds, "I'm afraid to come home, to be honest." Strangely, in response, Amber says, "I didn't go to the back porch." Then Amber continues on saying, "Don't be afraid, and I'm not going to cause you any stress. You can come home and go into the bedroom. I'll stay in the living room till you wake up for work." And I have so many problems with this. I don't know whether or not Mr. Snowflake is like holding back any additional text messages or screenshots that Emily may have shared, but what came before this exchange? What did Emily say in order for Amber to come back with, "Am I leaving then?" What does Amber mean when she said, "I also have moments where I snap on you"? But more than that, Amber says that she needs Emily's help to find Rarity and that she's been looking all day. And Emily says nothing back about Rarity? And is Amber already trying to shift the blame when she says that she didn't go to the back porch? Was there any more context to that? Why didn't Emily question that? Like, what do you mean you didn't go to the back porch? Shouldn't you go there if your cat is missing and you can't find her? Or is Amber already insinuating that she has found the back door open and, well, she didn't go back there, so it must be Emily? And then Amber goes on to be like, "Yeah, baby, come home. I won't bother you. You can just go to bed." Like, bitch, you just said you needed her help finding Rarity. It just makes no sense to me. But continuing on, those texts started at 10:06 p.m. on November 17th. We don't have individual timestamps for everyone, but the next screen capture starts up at 10:26 p.m. on the same night, with Emily saying, "If you didn't hurt me on purpose, why would you regret it? Get real. I don't want you to touch me." And then Amber says, "I regret anything that I've done that has hurt you. I understand." Then Amber says, "OMG, Princess is out." Princess is Emily's cat. And then in some sort of realization, Amber says, "She just went up the stairs into the bedroom. I was so confused for a minute." Then Amber says, "Emily, can I ask you something?" Emily says, "What?" Amber, Can I have another chance? To which Emily responds, no. And during this whole exchange, there is no mention of Rarity. Emily just doesn't question it at all. And Emily doesn't say that she's coming back home to help find Rarity, despite telling Snowflake that after she found out, she came home immediately. Now, either Emily was lying a bit there, or, this did happen like a year ago, so maybe Emily remembers that she came home immediately. But from the timestamps and the text messages, it does look like Emily took at least some time to get home. Perhaps she wasn't believing Amber right away, so maybe she didn't react right away, but in any case, 10:30 and she's still texting Amber. She's still not home. The other thing that I want to point out in this text exchange is Amber's brief mention of Princess, Emily's cat. For a moment, Amber says, OMG, Princess is out, before then backpedaling and saying, oh no, she just went upstairs. Was this a second attempt at Amber trying to get Emily to react or come back home? Because at this point, Emily still had not caved into Amber saying, oh baby, I'll come right home for you. So was this Amber trying to use Emily's own cat Princess instead? Whatever the case, it looks like Emily was not having it. Emily did not respond or react to Amber's messages about Rarity or Princess supposedly being missing. In the following screen captures of Emily and Amber's text messaging, there were no timestamps to show when Emily actually got home. But at the very least, based on the text messages that we do have, Emily was not told of Rarity's disappearance until 10 p.m. on November 17th. After having left some 14 hours prior. And now, looking at all of this, only a few things could have happened. And none of them make Amber look very good. Either Amber willfully and intentionally let Rarity out as a ploy to have Emily come back to her, and Amber's just been lying and making shit up ever since, or Amber failed to notice the absence of her cat all day after the door was left open in the early morning hours. As in, Amber failed to notice for over 14 hours, or maybe over 17 hours according to Amber's timeline, that the door was left open. Over 14 hours of not noticing that her beloved cat, her world, her everything, was nowhere to be found. And over 14 hours of not going into the kitchen, not sitting at the table, and noticing that that cold breeze was coming from the door. And because I just cannot fathom somebody actually intentionally letting their own pet out, I initially felt like this just had to be a case of Amber being extraordinarily neglectful and lazy. I was fully convinced that at some point a door was left open, either by Emily or by Amber. It really doesn't matter. Whoever it was, Rarity eventually got out. And Amber has absolutely no clue when that actually happened, because she couldn't even be bothered to let the pets out all day long. And she didn't care or notice that her poor cat was missing. So at around 10 p.m. or just prior to that, when she finally notices that the door is open, who could have done it? Was it Emily? Was it Amber? Does it matter? It was Amber who was there all day. It was Amber who failed to let out her poor dog or Emily's dog. It was Amber who chose to take her cats there in the first place. And it was Amber who failed to notice the absence of her own cat. And so it was still Amber's fault. And then there was another theory floated around that I thought was very plausible. I can't remember who came up with this theory. I feel like it might have been Salty Crab. This seems like a salty moment. But the theory was that Amber did in fact intentionally let Rarity out. Obviously, this is terrible to any reasonable sane person, but could it be possible that Amber did this in the belief that she would be able to quickly find Rarity again once Emily came home, using her cat to lure Emily back in, but not actually believing or understanding that Rarity was at a real risk, being outside in an unfamiliar territory at night in Wisconsin winter. So I do find this theory to be slightly more plausible than Amber letting Rarity out intentionally knowing that she was going to die. So maybe lacking empathy and lacking common sense, she really did think that Rarity would be fine and she could just scoop her back up when she was done serving her purpose. But in the aftermath of Rarity being lost, this is where the story really starts to show Amber as an uncaring and neglectful pet owner. According to Emily, Amber didn't even care to help to look. Amber watched as Emily searched the house. Amber was buried in her phone as Emily was driving around looking for her. Are you actually joking? However, again, this is all over text, and this is just Emily's side of the story. So it's quite possible that Emily is lying or stretching the truth or maybe omitting parts of the story. And maybe it's just my own personal bias to believe Emily over anything Amber has to say. I try to be unbiased, but it's very hard given Amber's track record. But moving on, Emily has a few more things to say about the aftermath of Rarity's disappearance. Mr. Snowflake had asked Emily about Amber's initial videos that she posted back on November 18th. Those very emotional crying videos.
Were you off screen watching this, and what did you think? Because her acting is shite. I don't remember saying that. I mean, it's true. Her acting is shite. I've always thought that. I didn't buy she was genuinely sad. Nobody did that, not just me.
To which Emily responds, I was home for quite a few of them that she filmed. It was always after a fight between her and I. I think she wanted to take advantage of the tears and the crying and put it on camera. I even asked her, why would you film right now if you're this upset? Which she would get pissed if I mentioned anything about the vlogs. She was obviously the expert and always knew what the right thing to post was. And yeah, I kind of believe Emily on that one. Not knowing what was right to post, but the whole, playing it up for the camera part. I really don't think those tears were for her poor missing cat Rarity. They were for show. They were spillover from fights she had had with Emily. She didn't have to go on camera at the height of her emotions. She could have waited to calm down. But no, she wanted to show her audience this. She wanted to show how hurt she was. And in another message to Mr. Snowflake, Emily says, usually when she knows she's in the wrong but doesn't want to admit it, she's over the top and extra dramatic about things. And she was definitely over the top. Over the top and extra. Just like her recent live streams and meltdowns. Huh. Weird. Anyway, Snowflake goes on to ask Emily,
what was she like in the following weeks or however long? What she said about Rarity? Did she talk about Rarity?
To which Emily responded, we did talk about her because I was actively searching for her. She would say how much she missed her every once in a while, but she definitely handled it better than I would have if I lost my pet. She would cry sometimes, but she didn't cry like she did on camera about her. Yeah, Emily definitely thinks that Amber played it up for the camera and she wasn't actually as sad about Rarity as she made it out to be. And everyone grieves in different ways. You can't be 100% sad 100% of the time. And I wasn't there. So I don't know if this was all just Emily's perception of what Amber was like, or whether it was the actual reality of how Amber was feeling. But there you go. Emily went on to say, I definitely feel like this was a huge distraction from the big fight that happened. It seemed to blow over faster than it should have. I wanted to keep it civil while she was here, while we were looking for the cat. That's when she tried signing up for therapy in Wisconsin to show that she was going to get help for how she acts. After this, Emily goes on to explain further arguments that she had had with Amber, leading to her eventually needing to drive Amber home to Oklahoma herself. But again, we're just focusing on Rarity today. Because what Emily said here, that she felt that this was all just a distraction from the big fight that they had had, that definitely sounded very damning for Amber. And there's not too much to argue about with Emily's retelling of events. There's not too much that could be amiss in the timelines according to Emily's story. Whereas with Amber, she's already contradicting herself. And now, with this new time-stamped conversation showing that she didn't tell Emily anything until 10 p.m. that night, Amber would need to mend some holes in her story that she had already told. And so, after Snowflake posted this tell-all with Emily, Amber went live again, only a few hours after Snowflake's video.
After work, I didn't want to go back home. I was exhausted, drained, and I didn't want to deal with her crap all over again. She had been blowing up my phone all day trying to apologize and see if I would change my mind about having her go back home. After work, I went for a walk to decompress. She was not happy about that, but she was blowing up my phone asking me to come home. It was about 2 hours after my shift that I got a text from her saying that she couldn't find Rarity. She said that she hadn't seen her all day and that she was just telling me this now. At this point, I came home right away. I figured...
So I'm going to cut her off there. During this whole live, Amber was very cocky, and she spent most of the stream pointing the finger back at Emily, basically saying, oh, well, everything you say about me, yeah, well, that's actually describing you. And Emily's lying about this and that, and Amber was pausing every few lines to make another jab at Emily. But during this reading of Emily's version of events when it comes to the Rarity situation, Amber just speed read as fast as she could, looking smug and above it all. Could this be another attempt from Amber at minimizing the situation, trying to distance herself and spend as little time as possible on this subject? Maybe. She did pause once to confirm that no, she wasn't walking around in the snow looking for Rarity.
I spent hours upon hours driving around looking for her, walking through fields and in between houses around my house and through the snow. Amberlynn would go on the drives with me, but obviously didn't do the walking around part. When it was snowing, no. I didn't. No, I didn't. I can't walk in snow. I wear flats. I have lymphedema. But when it wasn't snowing, I was looking just as much as you. Am I going slower? Do I go as far? Am I going slower? Yes. Do I go as far? No. Obviously, I'm over 500 fucking pounds, bro.
Fair point. I didn't really expect Amber to get out and walk. Kind of funny that she had to point out that it was her lymphedema that made her unable to go walk around. Poor Amber. And Amber was quick to paint herself as a victim in other ways too.
So we were in an argument and she literally would use looking for Rarity as like a control thing, as like power. In the same way that she would use Colleen as a weapon, she started to use Rarity as one. That's the shit that I had to deal with. And then one time I'm literally bawling my eyes out in the truck while we were looking for Rarity one time. And she literally said, if you don't shut up, it makes me want to fucking punch your teeth down your throat, is what she said to me.
Obviously, violence is never okay. Talking to someone like that is also not okay, if that is actually what happened. However, I do find it interesting that rather than choosing to talk about all the things she did to try to find Rarity and how she was looking for Rarity, instead, Amber was very quick to deflect and start highlighting what a victim she was in all of this. Oh, poor Amber can't look for Rarity on her own. Poor Amber was being victimized by Emily. Poor Amber was being treated so horribly, even when she was grieving and looking for her lost pet. Amber did also try to deny Emily's accusation that Amber never filed a formal report, but she provided no actual proof.
The only info they had on the report was from the lost pet database that I submitted. I literally have a voicemail. I don't know if I deleted it because I delete my voicemails. Like saying the opposite of what she's saying here.
Only saying that she had this voicemail? That doesn't make much sense. A voicemail is in no way filing a formal report of a missing cat. And she doesn't even show proof of this supposed voicemail that exists anyway, so this is a big nothing burger. And now I thought that given that Emily has come out with this new version of events and specifying that it wasn't until 10 p.m. that she was told that Rarity was missing, I thought that Amber would take some time to either say that Emily is lying or try to clarify things because we're just not understanding, obviously. But that didn't happen. Amber didn't deny Emily's timeline. She actually seemed to agree with it. But Amber did feel the need to re-explain her own timeline because clearly she needed to patch up some holes. So in order to give Amber the benefit of the doubt, let's hear one more time her new version of events and her clarified timeline.
I have the message of her initial reporting when she was missing, which is timestamped. It shows that her story that she posted on her vlogs about her being missing at 5 a.m. was not correct. I don't know what she's talking about. So now let me explain the timeline. So our huge fucking argument happened wee in the morning. I mean, I'm telling you, it was like 5 a.m., 4 a.m., like around that time, I would say. And Emily has a massive house. And a lot of the cats, like her cat Daniel, Princess, Wasabi, Rarity, they all like to be in the basement. That's where they went to the bathroom. They would eat down there. They would play down there. They would just hang out down there. That's where they like to chill. They had free roam of the whole place. But that is where they were a lot of the time. And also her cat Wig. So that's like the place where they like to go. So normal pattern of the day is a lot of the time, like you didn't see a cat. You didn't see a cat because they were all hanging out doing their damn thing at the basement. That's just what they did because they had like a cute little cat door for the basement. It was actually really adorable. And you know, it was a normal pattern. You know, I wouldn't really see Rarity throughout the day. It would be later at night. She would pop out, you know, follow me around, eat food from the kitchen, get some water from the kitchen, whatever it may be. And I noticed that normally the time when I would see her, I didn't see her. I was like, that's weird. Like throughout the day, I'm thinking, okay, like she's probably in the basement. It was just normal everyday life. Nothing seemed off. And then it was like around the time where like, you know, the cats start to come out. They're like coming up to the living room or the bedroom, starting to just venture out a little bit more. I was like, it's weird. I've seen most of the cats today, but I haven't seen Rarity. And that's when I was like, what the heck? So I went down to the basement and I didn't see her. And I was like, this is confusing. I'm calling her name. I'm going to floor number 1, floor number 2, floor number 3, floor number 4. And I'm like, why isn't she coming out? I mean, if I say Rarity one time, she comes to me. Like that, she was glued to my hip. But since she had such free roam of such a huge house, she took her favorite spot and she loved to be there. That was the basement. So when I noticed, okay, she's not coming to me. Like I'm shaking treats. She's not coming to me. Something is not right. That is when I messaged Emily because the pattern was then broke. That's when I was like, what is going on?
But that doesn't explain how she sat around for something like 17 hours, not letting the dogs out, not noticing the cat was gone, and not even going into the kitchen or sitting at the table to eat, or to feel that cold breeze. But this is Amber's story now, and she's sticking to it. Just that settles that then. And now that Amber feels confident in her side of things and her story, she starts to get mean and show her true colors. Even starting to blame Emily and insinuating that Emily left the door open on purpose.
So the fact that like Emily is like turning this into, I don't know if she like let her out on purpose, when you know you let her out because you left the door open, is sick. Sick. I did everything I could to try to find her. I can't say 100% that she purposely let her cat out, but give the circumstances, the situation doesn't look good. You left the fucking door open. When you left that night, you betrayed me and you could not handle the fucking heat. You cannot handle the reaction that I had due to the pain that you caused me. You left the fucking door open and I took the blame. That is a conversation we had ad nauseum. We talked about it so many fucking times my head was about to pop off. So many fucking times we talked about it, Emily. And you know that. I took the blame for you over and over and over. I lied about everything for you, about you being a feeder. And I lied about us not being a relationship to protect you constantly because I wanted people to like you.
Amber is scary. Like, honestly scary. A lot of what Amber does is very performative and obviously exaggerated, and you can easily tell when Amber is playing it up or lying. But I don't know, when she starts to let her real anger show, it's genuinely frightening. Even in editing this, it just feels icky to watch, like in a different way than her usual cringe. In any case, this seems to be the end of Amber's revisions to the Rarity story, for now at least. Amber hasn't provided any further clarifications or changes to her story since that raging live stream. And so if Amber wants to stick to this story that it was Emily who left the door open, then Amber has to admit that she didn't give a about the other animals and the dogs in that house for a full 14 to 17 hours. And she didn't care or even notice that Rarity wasn't around. And that somehow she didn't sit at that table for any reason or go into the kitchen at all for 14 to 17 hours. Nah, just not buying it. I don't know the truth of what happened, but there are just too many holes, too many inconsistencies, and changing details and red flags in Amber's storyline for her to ever be believed in this situation. And in my mind, the biggest red flag in all of this is that Amber was scared and felt the need to come address things online before anything had been posted just because she was tipped off that Emily was talking about Rarity, to tell the truth about the Rarity story, when apparently the truth, according to Amber, was that Emily herself let the cat out. It makes no fucking sense. Then the changing timeline, adding a nap to try to make things make more sense, raging over seemingly minor questions, deflecting all the blame onto Emily, playing up the victim and trying to change the conversation over to how bad Emily was to Amber or how mean Emily was to Amber every time Rarity was brought up. That's not the actions of an innocent person. Also, let's not forget that this is not the first cat that has gone missing under very strange circumstances at a very convenient time for Amber. A decade ago, her and Destiny's cat, Gracie, was let out by a roommate, according to Amber.
Her name is Gracie May. This is Destiny's cat, and now my cat. It's our little baby, huh?
And then all of a sudden, Gracie, my cat, well, Destiny's cat, but my cat now, she goes booking it outside, running like a ninja. Oh my God. Our cat got out last night. Not when she got out from me, because I caught her and catched her. We're thinking she wanted to do it in her next opportunity, and she did. We're thinking our friend Jessica didn't notice, but Gracie ran away, and now we're gonna try to find her.
I'm not sure if everyone is aware of the sketchy timeline with this Gracie situation, because Gracie was let out, apparently by a roommate, after Amber had been moved in with Destiny for less than a month.
Can you guys believe it? 31 more days, and I will be meeting Destiny and moving to Florida,
And later on, Amber would try to distance herself from the Gracie situation as well, trying to claim that Gracie was never her cat in the first place.
Having 2 pets disappear is being an irresponsible owner. So I've only had 1 pet disappear, and it was Rarity. If you're talking about Gracie, that was not my pet, which I loved her dearly and I miss her. And B, it was like Destiny hates my guts. And Destiny has even confirmed that is nowhere near Amberlynn's fault. And I know people just love talking about that and like saying that, etc., because it's just fun to do. Yeah, so yeah, it was just 1 pet and it's heartbreaking for sure.
But it was her cat, and it did get lost at a very convenient time for Amber. Amber had been wanting her very own new kitten. But with the house already maxed out in the number of pets they could own, Amber couldn't get her way. Well, not even a week after Gracie went missing, Amber got her own little kitten. If losing a cat at a time that benefited Amber happened once, I could believe that it was a coincidence. But twice, Amber? The Gracie situation remains relevant now because now it's a pattern. Now, like I said, in Amber's more recent live streams, she has not brought up the Rarity situation anymore. So she has left it up to the audience to look at all the evidence and all the testimonials and come to their own conclusion about what really happened to Rarity on that cold Wisconsin night. So let me know in the comments below what you think really happened. And are we just being too hard on Amber? Also guys, thank you so much for watching if you're still here. Please make sure to subscribe if you want to see more. It really does help out my channel. And if you want to support my channel more, I also have memberships where you can get exclusive access to vloggy type videos, as well as additional girl world content. And I'm planning on uploading a members only Amberlynn poetry read very soon. So looking forward to that. But until then, bye. Derp.